I'm Jason Bradford.
I'm Asher Miller.
And I'm Rob Dietz. Welcome to Crazy Town, where a massive pile of human fecal matter is our best answer for fueling airplanes.
Quick warning, sometimes this podcast uses swear words.
Language! Hi, fellas, it's 2024. You guys recovered from New Year's celebrations and all that?
Yeah, sorta.
Yeah.
Celebrating, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what a year to celebrate.
Oh, well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go over some of the, what happened in 2023. We're going to look ahead. You know, this is our kickoff of 2024 Crazy Town episode. And so looking back, you guys got any stats on our listeners and where they came from?
We don't have any. That's just,
no, there's some. There was some.
Well, it's top secret. We got to be careful about what we reveal. But what I can tell you, I can give you our top 10 cities of listeners.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Des Moines. Is that on the list? Des Moines, Iowa?
Yeah, I mean, you're close, but probably, 10,000 miles
Mogadishu.
away? Our top city, ladies and gentlemen, is Sydney, in the fantastic country of Australia.
Beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. What's number 2?
Melbourne,
What?
also
Wait a second.
in the fantastic nation of Australia.
Okay.
We're big in Down Under.
What about New Zealand? Are they close?
New Zealand. Well, I'm sorry, New Zealand, but Brisbane also is above you in Crazy Town listenership.
Okay.
But Auckland does come in at number 6.
But there were more people in Australia
Yes,
then.
demographically.
True.
So we're demographically dominating the southern hemisphere, it sounds like.
Well,
or at least that part of the southern hemisphere.
Do we have any Santiago, Chile? Or
No, there's 2 top 5 cities right here in the Pacific
but
Northwest.
But there's
Well, that's Corvallis because I keep listening to us over and
There's
over
300
and over again.
There's almost 400 million people in North America. But if you think about demographically, we're kicking ass down under and New Zealand.
I think maybe we're stars. If we showed up in Australia and started speaking, people would go, "Wait, do I hear Crazy Town?"
We should do a tour like the Dollop guys do tours.
Yeah.
Just go down there in the winter, our winter, their summer. Let's think about
Although
this. Let's
it's
get
been
it fun.
kind of rough their summers.
Hey, let's pander to them down there. I want to talk a little bit about music. What are your favorite? Start with Australia.
I come from a land down under.
Australian bands. Okay,
Yeah.
that was
First of all, Colin Hay is Scotch, though he's not Australian. I mean, he moved to Australia.
Was In Excess Australian? I think.
Yeah.
Yes, that guy died though. It's kind of let's not talk about how. And then,
our favorite movie,
yeah,
Mad Max.
That's a good one. But Paul Kelly and the Messengers. That was my favorite Australian.
Okay,
band.
we're so old.
But New Zealand. Okay, let's go New Zealand favorites.
Lord?
No, music.
Yeah, Lord.
Oh, I don't know Lord.
And Lord of the Rings.
Crowded House for me. Crowded House. Neil Finn. Crowded House.
Crowded House.
Okay. Yeah. Any other thing we got to pander?
God.
Any more pandering?
I don't think we should pander that much. I don't know.
Right.
We should get on with this. Reveling in our stats and our popularity in Australia. That's not humble.
No, it's not humble at all. I'm just so happy.
Until people find out we're only talking about 7 people.
Right.
Sydney. We're talking about 4 people in Melbourne.
There were 3 listeners in Portland, Oregon. One of them was me.
I'm just appreciative. I loved my time I spent there a little bit. So I'm just touched.
Yeah.
So... Yeah.
All right. Well, so like you said, Jason, we want to do reflections. We want to then transition to some predictions. And I got some problems with that, but we'll talk about that when it comes around. And we want to also do some resolutions for the new year. So, I don't know, Asher, why don't you start us off with some reflecting?
I kind of want to forget the last year, to be honest. I don't know about you guys, but it sort of felt like everything is not just getting worse, but it's getting worse faster.
Well, it's an exponential growth function of worse.
There you go.
It's like what Al Bartlett said. You fail to understand how bad things can get.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think those were his words, but
exponentially bad.
Well, I don't know. It has felt like the great unraveling has been kind of quickening or something. Again, I'm scanning the news for the darkest shit, probably.
Well, the AIs are figuring out that's what you click on. So
that's right. The algorithm is just serving up the things that feed my apocalyptic.
Well, here's what you do:
mindset.
Bring data to this. So you have an inherent bias, but can you bring any data? Okay.
Well, a few things,
Yeah.
few examples. I don't know if you guys. I don't know why I spent time on Twitter last year. I'm not even going to call it that.
Okay.
And in fact, I'm walking away from that platform altogether. But
I never walked to it, so I feel all right.
Yeah.
I don't have any.
You aren't missing much.
Yeah.
But I just remember, like in the summer, my feed was taken over by these just horrific charts of sea temperatures and just evidence of off the charts anomalies that are happening in the climate
Wait, was it
system.
on the chart or off the chart? Because you said it was taken over by charts,
both,
and now
dude.
you said it was off the chart.
Both, man. Keep up, okay?
All right.
The point is, what's happening with climate feels like
Something changed.
it's ratcheting it up,
Okay,
right?
that's data. Okay.
That's one point of data.
Sort of
Okay.
data.
Here's more.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, we're aware that there's a war in Ukraine. There's this conflict that's happening in Israel and Palestine.
Right.
But it's
So
not just...
Pinker would say that.
Fuck Pinker. We
Okay,
talked
okay.
about that dude, okay?
That's another reflection. Our false prophets analysis took us down a few notches in mental. So that's where we got.
That's true. Mental health has suffered greatly. And I apologize to all our listeners.
All right, forget
'cause
Pinker. Pinker's
we
wrong.
basically spread the contagion to them. Yeah, there's a recent study that found that there are 183 regional and local conflicts that were taking place in 2023. A lot of them we never hear about, but like Africa, there's a lot of shit going down there.
I think if you keep going down this downward spiral, you can add a 184th because you and I are going to have a conflict.
Oh, if I keep talking this
Yeah.
yeah. Well, just to point out, that's the highest level in 3 decades.
Okay.
And I think 2024, we're going to knock that out of the park.
Okay.
But you see what's happening with democracies all over the world, and in
What democracies, right?
Exactly. My homeland, Wilders won the Dutch election. He's been this staunch anti-immigration dude, anti-Muslim. He won election there. There was a lurch to the right in Sweden. We've got Javier Milei in Argentina. That dude, if you want to see some crazy stuff, we think some of the things Trump says are outlandish. This guy wants to cut basically every social service under the sun in that
How's
country.
his hair?
Well, his hair is great.
Yeah, the hair is always great on these guys.
Yeah.
It's not great on Trump. What are you talking
No,
about?
it's great. Come on.
It's an eye of
It's
the
a thing.
beholder.
It's a thing.
And then
It catches your eye. It catches the sun. It catches the wind.
Probably catches some birds.
Yeah.
And then you see in the United States, I'm not even going to talk about the 2024 election, but, you saw like Congress being gridlocked by the Republicans not figuring out who was going to lead their party. Mm-hmm. And they wound up settling on a guy that's like basically like a Christian nationalist. Dude,
Yeah.
He has like a flag in front of his office, that represents the 7 Mountain Mandate, which holy shit, man! You want to go down a rabbit hole? Go down.
Look
that
up
rabbit
7
hole.
Mountain Mandate.
Yeah,
and
7
then-
Mountains
and
Mandate.
And then cry.
Or blink.
I used to really hold a space in my heart for the 7 summits. That's like the highest mountain on each continent.
I think that was their inspiration.
Now we have this 7 Mountain Mandate to take
It's
its
basically
place.
a Christian nationalist trying to take over all aspects of society and dominate them.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Powell memo, which we talked
Yes.
about on this podcast for Christian nationalism.
Okay.
Right? And then we've seen just I would say, general uptake in weirdness. Lots of weird stuff happening. I'm seeing in my own community, my Jewish community, a lot of Jews who have been liberals or progressives feeling like the Democratic Party is not for them anymore because what's been happening in the conflict in Israel and in Gaza.
It's that recent, like it's a shift in the last few months, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it will be, I mean, I don't know how that's all going to shake out, but you start seeing these weird realignments, and we saw that with COVID when you had all these like anti-vax conspiracy theories where you have people on the kind of the far left who question pharmaceuticals getting in bed with QAnon people. And now I think you might see these weird political realignments happening. And can we just point out the fact that the 28th, first of all, the fact that there's 28 of these COP meetings, the climate meetings, international climate meetings, took place in Dubai?
Yeah.
Dubai.
Yeah.
I don't know what all this hand-wringing is about. To me, it sounds like this is going to be a crazy town kind of year. I mean, we should be celebrating.
Plenty for us. We have so much fodder. Yeah. I think there's a lot of minds being lost. And it almost doesn't matter where you are in life. Like of course, there's like a horrible opioid epidemic, and there's, teenage mental health because of social media and stuff, and general stressors about the state of the world that they actually they take in. But even the billionaires, we did a lot this season on false prophets, and a lot of our false prophets were these very wealthy people that we consider kind of nuts.
Yeah.
And Musk obviously, but there's
that
thousands,
dude is losing it.
but there's thousands of them. There's thousands of billionaires, and people that have millions, like tens of millions, hundreds of millions, that could do whatever they want, right? Practically with money.
Sure.
This one guy caught my attention, Brian Johnson, because he's one of these anti-aging guys. Like, remember Kurzweil takes like all these supplements.
A bunch of those guys are kind of into that
Yes, they
stuff.
want to live forever. They're waiting for the singularity.
Peter Thiel.
Thiel. This guy caught my attention because he had a blood transfusion with his 17-year-old son.
Wait, excuse me?
Yeah, he basically...
What?
They have this sort of, one of the theories of anti-aging is you just get young blood. and he just, but he
that's why they're harvesting kids on the moon, or that was for adrenochrome.
Well, this is what's crazy is that you see these like wacko QAnon stuff, and then there's like stuff going on.
There's
in
like
parallel
real stuff
in the real world that is like pretty weird.
It's just feeding the conspiracy theories.
What kind of allowance is that son receiving?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the.
Go make your bed. I don't want to make my bed, and I don't have to, or else you don't get my blood.
Right.
But daily he gets up at 4:30 in the morning. He does these like 35 exercises. He takes 111 supplements. It costs him $2 million a year. He's got a team of 30 specialists. He has daily monitoring of his organs. It's incredible.
Does he have like a whole crew of people who like sit and watch after he has a bowel movement? They
analyze his poo. They all do all these like rectal exams. I'm seriously like it's very invasive. But he looks great. he's all his Instagram stuff. The guy is like half naked, and he's like hairless, like Brad Pitt. Like no one can have hair anymore on their chest. You can't have chest.
Well,
hair
you must have lasered it off.
But for for a few $100, he could get a gym membership and some makeup and look great on Instagram.
But he's got billions, so for him, spending $2 million is like the equivalent of a gym membership.
But the amount of high-tech gadgetry, and I was thinking about these blue zones.
You got to explain what that is for our listeners.
Well, these places that it's like you can look at the demographics and say, all these people are living long, like healthy long, like a lot of 100-year-old centenarians, whatever.
Right.
And then you look at them and it's like, oh, they're like relictual peasant populations, in Greece or whatever, Japan.
Yeah, Okinawa.
Yeah. And so Sardinia, and you're like, just live like a humble peasant. Or you can spend millions of dollars a year and get your son's blood transfused.
Exactly. Potato.
Right. Like which one scales?
Right.
Or play tennis. That's the sport, it came out that tennis players live the longest of any exercise.
Oh, is that true?
Well, and then when you can't do that, you just sub down to pickleball. Then you sub down to ping pong.
Don't get pickleball airtime. Come on. Jesus. I'm a tennis snob.
So you want to talk about billionaires spinning out of control. I mean, the obvious choice is when Mark Zuckerberg challenged Elon Musk to a cage fight.
Is that the restriction? He started the challenge?
Because Zuckerberg started training MMA.
I didn't know
And
that.
he got pretty good at it, apparently.
Sure.
Who says?
If you spend $2 million a year training on
Well,
something.
at least he said it.
Right.
And then...
Because I'm sure his sparring partners are going full tilt on him.
Yeah. Well, and then Musk was kind of taking the bait and be like, yeah, I'll fight you. But then they
challenged him to a cage match.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
I mean, Zuckerberg's also joined in the whole prepper kind of doomer, bunker thing, which we talked about. Last
he's
season.
got a missile silo somewhere.
Yeah, but he's got money to throw around, so he's not going to that dude. What was the name of that guy that we talked about?
I can't even remember. He was in Michigan somewhere.
It was Barrett Moore or something.
Yeah, that's good memory.
Thank you. Yeah, it's because I'm doing all these supplements
Right.
your billionaire buddies got me on. But so Zuckerberg bought like a 1,400-acre compound in Hawaii.
On the island of Kauai, which isn't that big island.
Not
that's
that big.
That's too much of that island.
He's got half of the island.
Jeez
now.
Louise.
And he's building like mansions on this property, but he's also building like a 5,000 square foot underground bunker with all his food and shit. So he's spending $100 million on this stuff. So, everyone's got to find their way of trying to survive, through.
Yeah.
Well, and trying to survive, you brought up, Jason, there's people all over the place who are having trouble, who are, if they're like you, Sharon, they read the news daily, they're starting to go a little bit bonkers, seeing, you can't look at what's going on with climate or talk to climate scientists without getting kind of scared. So, people are struggling and they need support. And I wanted to reflect on something I did this past year. I took a course through the Good Grief Network, and they run the participants through a 10-step program. You know? And so each week you kind of go over a certain step. I'd encourage listeners to check it out. We've talked about it in the past. And I just wanted the first step in the program is to accept the severity of the predicament that we're in. And, that's one of the things we've been trying to do with this show is, analyze the problem and then talk about ways that people can get out of it. But to me, that's the hardest step. For privileged people that, I don't worry if I'm going to eat tomorrow.
Right.
I'm usually not very cold. We're pretty set up, but it's that huge energy cost to get there.
Right.
And I find accepting the severity of the problem, it's the hardest step.
I think it's a very hard step. I probably avoid thinking about the severity of it a lot, and I try to live in the moment. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I find, like the distraction, sometimes it's helpful, sometimes
that
maybe
red-shouldered hawk we just saw recently?
Yeah,
was that freaking awesome?
We did go out and you have a birding spotting scope, is that what you'd call that?
Yeah.
Found a red-shouldered hawk, yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, here we are talking about all the crazy stuff, how people are dealing with it in 2023. It wasn't even an election year. Can you just imagine what this next year is going to look like?
It's dizzying to think about how bad things are going to get. I mean, Trump has 91 felony indictments on him right now, and civil stuff going on, and it's just completely. Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Totally unprecedented.
This is just so bizarre.
Uncharted.
And this is just in the U.S. I don't even know. I can't even pay attention anywhere else because it's so. Yeah. It just sucks you in. Just what we're doing here. So it's my world has gotten smaller in a sense because it's so insane here.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has always been insular, thinking we're all important. And of course, all this other stuff is going on, like you're saying. And how do we even pay attention when it's so crazy here?
Well, I think that's why, you were just talking, Rob, about that first step of acceptance is so hard, right? Yep. And the worse things get, I think, the more we're going to have a tendency of people either spinning out and believing all kinds of crazy shit or blaming people for things or getting very narrow, right, in their thinking, what they expose themselves to, looking for distractions or fixating on, and I think we'll have this with I'm not trying to make a prediction here. We'll have this with policymakers or people who are trying to respond to issues too, which is it's the crisis in front of you, right?
Exactly.
And I just think that's where I think we're going to get all caught up in that.
Yep.
And the election's probably going to be the big one for us. So maybe we should talk about that. What do we think about what's coming in the next year?
All right, but before we do that,
yeah.
I want to say a choice word or two about predictions. Predictions always suck. They're never right. In fact, you got to turn to the great Yogi Berra for some advice on predictions. He said, "It is difficult to make predictions, especially about the future."
So now Yogi Berra, because most of our listeners are in Australia and New Zealand, he was a professional baseball player, and they know that sport.
He was a cartoon character.
Yeah.
Yogi
the Bear.
Yeah,
right.
So he's great for these quotes. Predictions are hard to make, especially about the future. That's why I only make predictions about the past. See, Jason, when you and I go out birding yesterday, we're going to see a red-shouldered hawk.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're really good at that.
Yeah, we saw two.
You're almost batting 100.
We saw two red-shouldered hawks.
You were only half.
See, I can't even make a prediction about the past.
Look, I'm with you, man, and I think we have actually learned a hard lesson in our work,
right?
Of being careful about making predictions. And I think when you talk in general terms, we've actually talked about this. Remember the whole bet, the Julian Simon, bet
Paul
with
Ehrlich.
Paul Ehrlich?
Premature constrandulation is a problem.
Yes, it is a problem. It's something, again, you can get pills for.
Yes.
But we want to avoid maybe making very specific predictions about things. And I don't think we want to spend a lot of time being like, I predict that Donald Trump is going to, win, whatever, or Biden's going to win, or I don't know.
I'm going to predict a win right here. I'm going to predict that Jeff Bezos teams up with Richard Branson, and they take down Musk and Zuckerberg in a tag team match.
Oh, that would be so fun.
How much would you pay to watch that, honestly? Would you pay to watch that?
To go live or like pay-per-view?
Yeah, like pay-per-view kind of thing.
Jeez, I mean, $5.
I would pay, especially if it were kind of guaranteed that they would all knock each other out. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah. Well, okay. Talking about violence, we're talking about kind of quasi-staged, but I actually have quite a bit of concern about political violence. And it's really mind-blowing to see how blatant the calls to violence are, mostly on what we would call the MAGA right movement. And there was an article in 2001, actually.
2001?
2001, about this guy. There's an organization called Turning Point USA, and based in Arizona, pretty right-wing guys. And there was somebody who came up to the podium, whatever, the microphone, and basically said, "When do we get to use the guns?" No, I'm not. That's not a joke. I'm not saying it like that. I mean, literally, where's the line? How many elections are they going to steal before we kill these people? And I would say that in spite of that, in 2021, it has gotten worse. And Trump being indicted and basically calling out anyone trying to hold him accountable, who's an elected official, who's an appointed official. And we find now there's all these examples of people getting arrested right before they're about to go do something.
Yeah.
Or they get into the building, but they don't find their target. So I think there's a good chance somebody's going to hit a target this year.
Well, you remember I interviewed Leah Satili.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of her work centers around the rise of the far-right conspiracy theorists and militias and all that. And yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm going to say a prediction has a decent shot of coming true, yeah.
I mean, and this is where, for me, I don't know if you'd call it prediction, but why I feel quite certain that we are in the throes of a great unraveling that we cannot stop.
Right.
Because we see this with what's happening with ecosystems, you know, the climate system and all these other things that are happening in the natural world. But if you just look at like political systems, we have a no-win situation if you think about it. But put aside whatever your political leanings are.
Right.
We have a presidential election. Here I am talking about politics, and I didn't want to do that. But where you either have a result in almost any scenario, you have a result where tens and tens of millions of people feel like they have been disenfranchised, or it's illegitimate, or it is existential.
Right. Like if Trump wins, he's basically said, "I'll be a dictator and I will seek vengeance upon my foes."
Right. And
and if Trump loses,
the flip side, exactly. So, and that's what I mean about this is kind of like the cat's out of the bag in a sense. There is no, how do you go back to a situation where there's kind of consensus agreement about the transfer of power and the legitimacy of elections or legitimacy of the government? So it is interesting you talk about violence because in the 60s, we saw political violence.
68,
You know, I mean, but even obviously we had JFK also assassinated earlier. And I hate to say this, but a little bit surprising considering how much gun violence we have, how many mass shootings and things that we have. It hasn't necessarily, I mean, there have been situations, right? There was that attack a few years ago at a congressional baseball game or whatever that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess... Are you envisioning, you're talking about somebody actually running for office getting killed or something like that?
Well, it may be someone who's running for office. It may be someone who's an election worker or a judge or a DA. I mean, it could be anybody. There's another article that recently came out about the guy who's been a lifelong Republican, goes to every monthly meeting of the Republican, party in Arizona. And it's like, telling everybody, no, our elections were fine. Like there was no fraud here. I've been in charge for all this time and it was fine. And he got yelled down so much. And basically he's afraid for his life to show up anymore. Mm-hmm. And
well, remember the conspiracy to kidnap the governor of Michigan.
Exactly.
Too.
Right. So it's, who knows? I'm just saying like one of these people is going to flip out and it could be another Republican who happens to be in effect, the county clerk of elections in some place, right?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, well, I was thinking along similar lines when I was trying to think about what we might expect in 2024. I didn't go quite as dark as you did, Jason, but going down the same path a little bit. I'm anticipating at some point we're gonna see such a sophisticated AI deep fake stuff, where the technology is. We were playing with this earlier, Rob. We were playing around with like taking articles from resilience.org and plugging them into this program that basically turns it into voice, right?
Uh-huh.
And you could play with different voices,
right.
Like so they had a Gwyneth Paltrow voice, and they had a Snoop Dogg voice, and they had a American president, but it was really Barack Obama, right? And pretty damn good, right?
Yeah. Huh.
And then
sounded a lot like Gwyneth Paltrow really has the same views as us on the state of the world.
And when you could combine that with like deepfakes video stuff, which is also progressing,
just look at the hands.
You could sort of see like that we might get a political, like a controversy, like a deep fake that actually works to change the outcome of an election. Do you know what I mean? And maybe it's not a deep fake of Joe Biden. I don't know, like, falling out of bed or something. But like, maybe it's a local election or congressional election.
I think the right will be immune to this almost because they've been primed not to believe anything if their side says it. So all anyone has to do is say deep fake. It could be real.
Right.
And no, they didn't catch me. That's a deep fake. And nothing will happen.
Well, but that's the problem.
That's
what happens with sort of groupism. And we talked about confirmation bias and all that stuff. Like, you're going to question the validity of something where would it make someone that's aligned with your views look bad. Yeah. But you're going to take at face value something that confirms your bias against another group.
Yeah.
Right?
So the left is more susceptible to this, I'm saying right now, I think, in today's
I think both, both
well,
sides.
While we're on the darkness theme, as your official editor of Crazy Town Pop Culture, I thought I would bring in probably the easiest prediction, which is an apocalyptic movie or two will show its face in 2024.
This is the weakest prediction I've ever heard.
I know. I've already seen 12 trailers for movies. They're all apocalyptic. Like there's one coming out. Maybe it's a series that the U.S. devolves into civil war in the near future.
Apple TV is going to do this.
Are you serious?
Right around the election.
Oh, that's going to help.
The dumbest thing ever. I'm like, what are you
Thanks for helping, guys.
My God.
Yeah. It wasn't 2020.
I'm going to watch it.
It wasn't in 2023. I think it was in 2022 when the new Batman came out. That movie was so damn dark. It's like just sign of the times that even our comic book characters are...
Batman has always been dark, but you're saying it was even worse.
Dark compared to anything you ever seen before.
Batman's his failed city, right? It's like he's a billionaire and has to go in a suit and fight crime. And
well, what we find out is in his Batcave, he's got little kids that he's getting the blood out of.
Adrenochrome is what gives him power.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's dark.
Can we stop with the darkness and move on to maybe some good New Year's resolutions?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we do that? All right. Well, I'm gonna riff on your whole thing about anti-aging right now.
Okay.
That's my
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, it's your resolution, huh?
So I kind of
don't get anywhere near my boys. Okay.
If they want to give blood, that's them. You can't.
You're not welcome in my house
yet?
anymore.
Are you 18 yet?
No, the idea is this came out in another interview I did this past year with Ray Wynn Grant, and I asked her about, hey, you're a college professor. What do you say to young people who are looking for advice on how to cope with all the stuff that's going on? And one of the things she said was like, take time for yourself to be physically and mentally well. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've always kind of tried to stay in shape on those fronts, but I was just thinking about on the physical front, I've often been a kind of an adventurer. Like I like going on long treks or big bike rides or testing myself. And I may still do that, but I think what I want to try to do is like literally take it down a few notches and just see what is, can I get my body to where it's in good enough shape that then that helps me mentally cope with what I'm seeing out there and what I'm dealing with, and when I have to sit here with you guys and talk about this shit.
You should look at Brian Johnson's Instagram account. I mean, that's what he does. It sounds a lot like him, but on the cheap. You're going to do it on the cheap.
Well, anyway, I would give that advice to anybody, and I don't like giving advice that I'm not. So
what resolution do you got, though? Is there a specific thing you're going to do?
It's just going to be to get what I would say sustainable exercise, and mostly in the outdoors.
That's pretty nice. I'm going to do cold water dunking.
What?
Cool. I'll help you with that. I'll spray you with a fire hose if you want.
Weekly. I mean, I don't know if that's, maybe, I don't know. I haven't researched this much, but I thought weekly might be good. But weekly, I'm going to basically dunk into cold water or turn the shower on cold for a minute and like you just get cold. It's supposed to really help your endorphins. It hurts. But there's this whole thing about, the modern world has so many easy pleasures that it leads to anhedonia, and it leads to actual people feeling pain when this really shouldn't be there. It's like there's a balance your body's seeking, the dopamine system, and actually having a ritual where you sort of make yourself uncomfortable is a good way. That's what I'm
doing right now.
Is a good way to kind of release endorphins, which counteract that pain and provide a sense of pleasure in the ordinary things.
Well, and if you listen to Wim Hof, the breathing guru, he would say that kind of cold plunging can also help you to moderate your fight or flight response.
Right. You say, "Oh, actually, I'm okay." You say, "I'm okay," because no, that's good. It's good to your vagus nerve control, and So anyway, I hope I do this.
Yeah.
So, Rob, you signed up to be his assistant. You're just going to get the hose out.
I will just hear some check-ins and find out how bad it is.
Does it work better if you're surprised when it happens? Like it's unanticipated.
This is cool. Like when we were out birding, we were at this wetland. So next time, I'm just going to push him in. How's that cold plunge?
It's an ice bucket challenge.
And you'll just have to say thank you for holding me accountable.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you, Rob.
God, I'm going to sound so boring.
Okay.
But this stuff is kind of important. My resolutions, I don't make really resolutions, like specific ones. I probably should, but it really is all oriented around self-care. And I don't know how much we've talked about how we cope, right? I think we cope together through laughter a bit. It's one of my kind of coping mechanisms just generally in life. But I have been, I would say, fairly good about just trying to move my body and exercising, which has been really key for me. But I think the next level for me is actually prioritizing and scheduling that. I usually do those things where I feel like there's a window. And for example, my calendar is actually public. So I share it with people and people can put something on my calendar. And,
I don't sound healthy.
Right. And my wife keeps saying that.
She's talked to me about it too.
Yeah, she did. And so I've actually sat down and I kind of blocked out chunks of time on my calendar Rob, you could probably see this because we've got a shared work calendar.
So proud.
Unavailable.
So I'm going to go in there and remove those, right?
All right. Damn, you have editorial control. Fuck.
Resolution not achieved.
So that's something I'm going to do. But it's also, I think, I want to get out in nature more. I really do. And I've been doing that mostly by walking my dog, and I've been pretty good about
good dog, Willow.
Letting my dog. I'm reading Ed Yong's book right now, which is about animal behavior, and he has a chapter about dogs and how important it is for dogs to be able to actually just sniff.
Yeah.
We see dog walking as exercise, and they see it as a chance to explore the world.
Right,
you're just dragging them away from this like amazing thing that they've just
another dog peed right here.
I know dog urine is such an amazing smell. You just want to savor it.
It's like me giving you, Jason, psilocybin and then locking you in a closet.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
God.
Like it's not cool.
That's not cool.
I've been pretty good about like taking my time, but I actually want to not just do that in my neighborhood. I want to go out and into nature more.
Well, I think that our resolutions are entirely compatible.
Yeah.
So
wait, I got one more.
Okay.
I'm going to get a perm.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Stop it. I don't believe
It'll be.
I don't believe you.
What if I get a perm and
so
I get like a Tom Selleck mustache?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I actually think that would be awesome. I think it would be so shocking.
It would
and
be
so
shocking.
Unnecessary. But why not?
And then I would get divorced.
Well, I think we should
have more time for you guys.
I think we should get started right now. What we can do is, Sherry, you and I can go walk in the woods. Jason will be birding. We'll throw him in the river.
Yeah.
We can jump in right after. You can float downtown, get a perm, and
there we go.
We're on our way.
Oh, what a great start to the new year!
Happy New Year!
I'm looking forward to
Happy
2024.
New Year!
Enjoy.
That's our show. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and you want others to consider these issues, then please share Crazy Town with your friends. Hit that share button in your podcast app or just tell them face to face. Maybe you can start some much needed conversations and do some things together to get us out of Crazy Town. Thanks again for listening and sharing.